Today, I am joined by Michael Mastrullo, the co-founder and CEO of Litix, a SaaS platform that gives K-12 districts and municipalities collective bargaining, analytics, and compliance training, and former pro Major League Baseball player for my Cleveland Indians.
I was drafted out of high school. It was a great experience. I mean, the team was so stacked. It was Tommy, Roberto Alomar, Carlos Baerga, Omar Vizquel, Eddie Murray. I have to be passionate about what I'm doing. I was a principal for 16 years, right? So I was in 20 years in education total. It's not that I lost the fire at the end, but it wasn't burning. What we want to do is just bring data to the table so people can make sure that they're offering fair compensation, fair benefits that are competitive, that are sustainable. We're solving problems for hardworking people. Hiring is the most important thing. No job is too small. I was picking up trash as a principal. The idea of, I'm not doing that because that's not my job, I hate that line.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to Life's a Pitch. Before we get into today's episode, I need you to do me a huge favor. Whatever platform you're on, so Apple, Spotify, or YouTube, make sure to follow or subscribe. I know everybody always says that, but for a newer show like this, one subscriber genuinely makes a huge difference. All right, that's my ask. Let's get to our amazing guest for today's show. Today, I am joined by Michael Mastrullo. Michael is the co-founder and CEO of Litix, a SaaS platform that gives K-12 districts and municipalities collective bargaining, analytics, and compliance training. Before Litix, he spent 15 years as a high school principal, running budgets, sitting at bargaining tables, and building the staff side of the house. He's also a former financial analyst, business owner, and former pro Major League Baseball player for, I'm going to say it, my Cleveland Indians. So I was very excited to be introduced over to Michael from our friend Jess Schultz. Obviously, I would be doing myself a disservice if I didn't start with the latter that I just mentioned. So you played, if anybody is listening, some people may know, in 1994-ish time frame, the Cleveland Indians, at the time they were called the Cleveland Indians, had just built a brand new stadium called Jacobs Field. It's now called Progressive Field in Cleveland. And the mid-90s in Cleveland were the greatest times if you were a Cleveland sports fan. So what was it like being around that team? I know you played were you in Columbus or Akron?
Okay, well, let me back up.
Yeah, give the story here.
So, let me start by saying it was 1994. I'm 51 years old now, so it was a long time ago. I was drafted out of high school. It was a great experience. And Cleveland, as you just mentioned, first of all, they were the team. I mean, the team was so stacked. It was Tommy. It was Roberto Alomar. It was Carlos Baerga, Omar Vizquel, Eddie Murray, Oral Horshard. You could go on and on.
Yeah.
And so I was drafted that year, and you start in short season. I was in Burlington, North Carolina. But I think the best part that you'll enjoy anyway, so is the following year we're going to spring training. And so you are at spring training with all the big league. And now you're separated. However, you do get some interaction. One example, I remember I was walking to the facility in the morning. Oral Hershiser picked me up, and a very humble guy, I got in the car and he said, "Hi, my name is Oral," and I wanted to say, well, no shit, but it was very nice. We had a nice chat there. Eddie Murray gave me a pair of cleats. Albert Bell was on that team as well.
What did he give you?
You know what? I stayed away from Albert Bell.
Yeah, everybody
did hit bombs. However, but that team was stacked. As a matter, and then now if I can fast forward, played with several major leaguers in my first year. The number one pitcher on our team was a guy named Julio Perez. You've probably never heard of. He didn't make it. He was by far the best pitcher. The second pitcher was Bartolo Colon.
Yep.
Obviously, we know that one. And the third was the number one pick, and it was Jarrett Wright, also.
Oh, yeah.
But if I could now just talk about the dynamics of Bartolo Colon is from the Dominican. He signed for $2,000. And Jarrett Wright was the number one pick that year, and he signed for $1.2 million. So a little bit of the if you don't make it and you're from the Dominican, unfortunately, it doesn't go well. But in any event, really enjoyed the experience. It was great being at spring training with the big leaguers. I was in a few different places: Kinston, North Carolina; Burlington, North Carolina; Huntington, West Virginia. Ultimately, I've only been to Jacobs Field once, and it was the day I had my surgery, which was I tore my labrum. I had the same surgery on the same day as Omar Vizquel, but
Okay.
don't look up any of my stats. I can give you my high school ones if you'd like. But you know what? And then I got hurt, didn't make it. Really looked at it as a failure for a long time
Yeah.
until I had kids. And then, I wouldn't have those kids if things didn't line up that way. And so now it's just a good experience.
Everything happens for a reason.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, you're spot on. You mentioned a few names in there, and I told you this before we started recording. I was a cotton candy vendor there. It was our high school job. It was the best job ever. But Jarrett Wright, I remember he was always a good dude that would like play catch with us in the outfield, like because we could get there before the things opened.
Great guy.
He had a magical run in 1997 with that team.
Yeah,
for
I
sure.
believe he pitched game 7. I believe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he did. Yeah, it was crazy.
I mean, he was a gamer for sure. And truthfully, going now, and when I know this isn't a baseball podcast, but
No, it is. It's called Life's a Pitch. This is the most we've talked about baseball in a podcast about
Okay, that's
baseball.
good.
So this is good.
What's interesting too is when some of you play with some guys that are like can't miss and they don't make it, and then some guys that make it, and you're just like, wow, like I know 20 people that can do more than that, and it's like anything else. There's a little bit of luck involved for sure. I don't think people truly appreciate how difficult it is to hit a baseball. When
Yes.
someone's throwing it 100, the TV doesn't do it any justice. And so even when someone stands up at the plate and they don't look like an athlete, they have elite hand-eye coordination, like in the 1 percentile for sure. So
The only thing that I would say is maybe harder is being a goalie in hockey. Other than that, it's not just hitting a baseball moving at the same speed every time. It's hitting balls that are moving at different speeds and the bottom's dropping out of them. And you've got to be able to notice the way that the ball's spinning as a hitter, and you've got a certain like under 0.5. Like it's crazy how hard it is to hit a baseball.
I can remember. So when I was a high school principal, every year I would at least once go work out with the baseball and the softball team, and I could still hit until someone would do anything other than throw it like a BP fastball. If you off speed, I literally almost threw my back out. I was like, don't ever do that again. Just groove it, and I'm gonna hit it out.
Yeah. Well, let's stay there. First off, thank you for coming on the show. I know we kind of went down that hole, which anybody that knows me is probably saying don't continue down because it'll never end if we continue to talk about baseball, but we're going to. So you spent 25 years inside public schools, right? And now you sell software to the same administration you used to sit next to in the lounge every day, right? What's something that you assumed would sell itself to education that you've watched fall completely flat?
Oh, something I thought. I mean, selling is hard, just period. And
It is.
even so, we have what we call door openers, right? So there'll be former superintendents or CBOs that are going to know enough. They're either former customers or they just know, they believe in what we're doing, and they will open doors for us, make connections, get us a meeting, and we take it from there. But even those folks who have these close relationships with people, they get offended when they don't hear back from people. And I think it takes everyone, including me, to realize now you're on the other side. Your email is not actually going to get answered every time. As a matter of fact, your text might not get returned. And you do have to be persistent without being annoying. So there is no such thing as, there is a network, but it doesn't guarantee you're going to even get a meeting. Eventually you probably will, but the dynamics are different. I can remember going to conferences and avoiding vendors. Now I'm on the other side of that equation. And I would just say that selling in general is challenging, but it's something I really enjoy. And truthfully, I think what we do is unique in that, and I know everyone can say this to some degree, but we're not selling a data platform. We're not selling training. We're selling solutions to real problems that a portion of us who work here have felt. And so you can feel good about that. And for folks that are not accustomed to selling, reminding them that people don't buy data platforms. What they do buy is something that's going to save them 50 hours of work. Right. So, when you're solving problems for people, it makes the pitch a little easier.
Yeah. So we're going to dig into Litix here in a second, but I want to go back to something you just said, talking about sales. Like you were an administrator at a school for 25 years, right? Yeah. And jumping from that to actually building out a company, did you always have that sales mindset, or was that something that you had to actually learn and figure out? Like you talked about, rejection is a big part of the game. You could have a great conversation with somebody. Mindset is, oh, locked and loaded, we're closing this, and then crickets from that person, you never hear from ever again. So where did you pick up that sales training or sales methodology process?
So I would just say even my path to here is atypical. Out of high school, as we mentioned, played baseball first, went to college, worked in finance for Merrill Lynch before, and there was some fixed income sales there before it was bought by B of A. Was going to go to law school and then left at orientation. It was my first one and only panic attack in my life, truth be told. From there, I actually bought a small business to supplement, and I went into teaching, and then bought a small business to supplement, the income my income clearly changed, and was a teacher for 4 years, then became a principal, and then came to do what I do now. And truthfully, I would say the thread all the way through is I have to be passionate about what I'm doing, and I'm really passionate about what I'm doing. And I was passionate about being a principal for a number of years, and I was a principal for 16 years, right? So I was in 20 years in education total. I was a principal for 16, and it's not that I lost the fire at the end, but it wasn't burning as much as I wanted to. So everything that I've done, I viewed it as a new challenge, and not necessarily stumbled into it, but found something that I really wanted to do. And so starting this company, I was still a principal when I started it, doing it part-time, and just felt really passionate about not only the work, the solutions that we're providing, and really felt like there was an opportunity. And so, I don't have formal sales training, so to speak. I did have some at Merrill Lynch. To me, it's relationship driven. It's not transactional. Positioning it is very important. Again, starting with the value prop, everything about the value it provides for the customer. And so I wouldn't say that it comes naturally. There's some things I'm good at. I would say selling I'm pretty good at. And there's a lot I'm not very good at, but some of it I think is instinctual, but also just the ability and the willingness to always learn.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, the best salespeople in the world are continuously learning and refining their craft. So you mentioned something here, and in doing my research, I found this, and I was thinking about my own story when I started this company, Outworks, and I was working for another company. And if you don't have a convinced mindset of what you're building or selling when you wake up in the morning, it's gone. Like it's done. It's not worth it, right? So I battled a lot with my day job and then my night job. But my night job was my passion. It's where my heart was. It was what I wanted to build out. And it sounds like you had some overlap there for a few years while you were building out Litix. What was that moment like when you were just, I can't do this anymore? Like it's time for me to go all in on Litix.
Yeah, it's actually a great question, because truthfully, when I first left, people thought I was crazy for doing it. And I was at a great school, one of the higher paid principals in the state. I loved, it's really in terms of Massachusetts, if you were going to take public schools and pick the top five, everyone would have this district in the top five. But doing both, when started the company, you have to file everything with ethics. Everybody knew what I was doing with my superintendent and the school board and all that. It was demanding more time, and it was starting to, even though it was 100% legit, things were starting to nibble away at it in terms of, for example, there was an individual that went to the school board and they said, "Do you know the principal has another job?" And they said, well, actually, of course we do. He told us everything about it. And this individual said, "But don't teachers have other jobs too?" Which was a great point in that moment. But that told me that, I have to pick a path here. And I was ready to make that dive into it. And truthfully, it was a big adjustment. It was some sacrifice in terms of just what I was making. I had to take a big cut in pay. And it did give me the luxury of working from home some. And my father lives with me. His health isn't great. So it was helpful there. I would say that anyone who would think that it's less work, it's actually more. But I do wake up every day. It doesn't feel like work. And I know that sounds a little corny and cliche, but it's true. I actually love what I do. I love the team that we have. Really feel passionate about what we're building. And yeah, it was pretty clear it was one path or the other. And I chose the one maybe that was a little more challenging, and hopefully it pays off. So far, it has paid off in many ways.
Awesome. Hey, listen, outside of comfort zone, the
Yeah.
more challenging path. Like
Mhm.
nothing in life worth having is not met with challenges along the way. What? So let's talk about it. Let's talk about Litix. Where were you when you're like, there's a hole here that needs to be filled, and I think that I can build something to fill it?
Okay, well, I'll just give you the gist of what we do is in the collective bargaining process. You have which is first of all, if we're talking about police, fire, DPW, teachers, these are the biggest budgets in any town. And so if you drill it down into a school district, a school budget, which is probably the biggest budget in town, and 80% of that is people. And the process of negotiating has a school board that are volunteers for the most part, that likely have kids in the school, and they're negotiating against a well-trained union members that are who folks that will come in and they have plenty of resources to bring to the table. And the negotiation, you have someone in that school board negotiating $150 million budget. It's going to impact kids. It's going to impact the community. Obviously, it's going to impact teachers. And they're doing it truthfully in large part without any data. And it just becomes an emotional discussion. And everyone worth their salt. So I hope my kids become teachers. My girlfriend's a former teacher. And so you want to support them, but you can't do it at the expense of ultimately the kids. And there are trade-offs. And how schools are funded doesn't allow for a lot of wiggle room. Right? You can't just sell a little more software to pay people. Ultimately, there's whatever state you're in, there's a formula, and you're pretty much constrained by that. And if compensation, which is 80% of that, continues to grow too high, ultimately it leads to layoffs, is what it is. Directly impact kids. And so the fact that there was no data being brought to the table, really one of the moments where the light bulb went off for me is somebody I went to high school with was on the school board in the town where I grew up. And no disrespect, this individual had no business being in that position, and thought, wow, they're responsible for negotiating a $200 million budget. That was insanity to me. The other side of this equation, my business partner and co-founder is a guy named John Boynton. Great guy, great family. His wife was the head of the school committee that hired me as the principal in Concord. And so we developed a casual relationship there. He is a serial entrepreneur and he's been very successful. Unbeknownst to me, he was having similar thoughts. So we were talking at a game, casual baseball game his son was playing, and I was talking a little bit about the process and no data. He didn't say much. And when I finished, he said, if you ever start that business, I'm your first investor. And so we ended up going down a different path initially, which is your compliance training, what we call Litix Academy, take care of all your state and federal mandates. We still a core part of the business. We have 45 employees. There's only like 5 that work on that side. However, have about 200,000 users go through. We take really boring mandatory training and bring it to life a little bit, make sure it's clear and concise. But we use that really to fund the growth or the development of something that's much more expensive, much harder to build, and what we call Litix Insights. And so ultimately, what we want to do is just bring data to the table so people can make sure that they're offering fair compensation, fair benefits that are competitive, that are sustainable, and to help our customers not only have data at their fingertips, but we can draw insights for them, help with decision support. So yeah, I feel like we're solving problems for hardworking people.
Well, who was your first yes that you're like, there's something here. We just got a yes. The first time that money hit the bank, you're like, okay, let's continue this going.
Well, unfortunately, this story now doesn't meet the criteria because it was somebody I used to work with, and she said when I pitched it, she said, "You can just stop. If you're starting it, I'm in." And so,
But that's how most businesses start. Like,
yeah,
I think I heard one time, if you have a company, your first million should be through your network. Like if you don't have that network, go get that network and then go make that, right? So yeah, that totally makes sense. And that checks with just about anybody that's out there that's building a company. Go to the
yeah,
people you know that trust you.
exactly. And for the folks, for Litix Insights, for the product that we provide, we don't really have a competitor out there. And we don't have 100% hit rate when we do a demo. We have a very high conversion rate though, probably 70%. We don't have an exact metric on it, but nobody says, I don't get it, right? Like people understand there's a need. and we're filling it. And it doesn't mean you're going to get everybody, and so we grew to 85% in Massachusetts. We work with 85% of the school districts here. Truthfully, that was from mostly word of mouth. We still don't have a really robust sales and marketing team at all, and we need one. We're just trying to position off of founder-led sales, and we've had little success. We need more, but it was really through prioritizing good product with great customer service. And so we measure response time in minutes and seconds, and people, I think, appreciate that.
Yes.
We've all had those experiences. Now you're dealing with an AI chatbot or whatever, and we hear it over and over. So we grew very quickly. We got a partnership with the Massachusetts Association of School Superintendents. They've never actually partnered with anybody. I do a little story about that if you care to hear it after.
Let's hear it. I want to hear it. Let's hear it.
Interestingly enough, so it brings in a few of the other things that we've talked about. So the executive director at the time was a gentleman named Tom Scott. He was transitioning over to Mary Bork, who's the executive director now. So they were kind of co-directing. He used to be the superintendent in Concord Carlisle, which is the last stop I had as principal. And so when we went to meet with them, they were doing a series on collective bargaining for their membership, and we were working with about 60 districts. We said, it's time for us to at least go there and tell them what we're doing, because maybe we can, we can help each other. Long and the short, first of all, he goes, wait a minute, you left Concord Carlisle? So this is getting back to walking away. He's like, you walked away from the pension? He's like, wow, that's bold. And so I said, well, thanks. I'm actually feeling a little insecure about it right now. So, great. So we sit down to do the presentation, and he just said at that moment, I just want you to know, we don't partner, we don't endorse vendors. That's how we get revenue. That's what we do. Yep, no problem, Mr. Scott. So we had a 30-minute presentation. This was a watershed moment, because there's so much hard work that goes into it, and for someone to validate. And even 5 minutes in, he said, I want you to stop. And then he turned to Mary and he said, how do we get this into every district in the state? And so that endorsement, they subsidized a portion of it for school districts, really helped us grow in Massachusetts very quickly, and gave us a stamp of approval that, not that people would buy, but they'll at least listen. Okay, I know this MASS is the organization in the state for school districts. And so if they felt good, it was vetted by them. Okay, if you trust them, we'll give them a look. And so we grew from there in Massachusetts.
Hey, that was clutch. It came through in the clutch there. A lot of people would be rattled hearing that going into a meeting, right? What he said. So that's awesome. Good for you guys to do that. I read that you guys had a 97% retention rate, which in the SaaS space in general is borderline psycho. That just doesn't happen. Mm-hmm. Why do you guys have a 97% retention rate? And then what's up with the 3%?
Obviously, there's something wrong with them. No. Yeah. So it's actually a good question. It's something we care a lot about. And I think it will get more challenging as we grow. So we'll see. We're going through renewals right now. We'll see how those, so far so good. But there's also some external pressures that make it a little harder. I would say the couple of things that I've already touched on. Hey, we have a great product that solves problems. And so we have a solution for them. Two, that hyper responsiveness I think is critical. And doing things truly that you actually can't scale. In other words, even kind of a few came in today, and my team will be a little annoyed with me, and I totally get why. They're already overworked, but it's like, okay, they're asking us to do something that we A, cannot scale, and B, you have to stop doing something and do this. And it's probably not fair, but it gets done. It's delivered. That person's over the moon, and anyone who will listen to them they'll just speak endlessly about how great their experience has been with us. I mean, this is such, in K-12 and municipality, it's such a tight-knit network that is so peer driven. And so even the MASS endorsement, which is great, it pales in comparison if someone they work with and trust says, you should give this a look. So I think that has helped us both grow and retain, but it's also about being flexible and nimble and not saying, hey, this is our product and it's forever going to be. And we have to evolve. The product has to evolve based on what the needs are. And so we're good at listening and building around it.
What is, from where you started to where it is today, how different is the product? Because anybody I talk to that's building something, usually the first iteration, now they're on version 6 or 7. a few
that
years later.
I am embarrassed about the first product we were delivering. It was it's your MVP that oftentimes we were just hoping and praying nothing broke in a demo, right? So, but and I was doing it even part time at the very beginning. Our first software engineer programmer was actually the co-founder's son. His name is Tucker Boynton. If you looked him up on Twitter, you see he's got quite a following. Brilliant Harvard grad. He then passed. When he was leaving, I said, "We need who's replacing you," and he brought Santiago. Santiago lives in Mexico City. He's been with us for 5 years. He's now 24. He was about to get a PhD in math, and I was like, "That's great." But let me just tell you about an opportunity. And so we're fortunate, to have him with us today. Listen, I haven't batted 1,000, but I think I've done a decent job of finding really good people that believe in the work, that are really smart, that complement each other. And so very lucky there.
Yeah, let's stay on the people. So, one, like, what's your team look like now? And then the question I always ask that I should have asked at the beginning is like, who are your buyers? Are they business managers within school districts? Is that
Mhm.
typically finance directors, superintendents?
Yeah.
So let's start with the team. Like, how big is your team now? And then, and I want to
Yeah.
hear who
So
your buyers.
the team, we have, you have your job description, then the reality. Uh, and the reality is no job is too small. You just do whatever is going to get done. Truthfully, we have a small team of, go to market. We have a CTO. We have teams by product, a little bit loosely structured together. We've really emphasized tech, truthfully. So our CTO, a gentleman named Will Johnson, brilliant. I mean, he was writing software, well, he was managing a team of software engineers at Aurora. They were writing code for self-driving vehicles. So, I mean, IQ of 160 plus, I'm sure. Brilliant guy who, ironically, he graduated from Concord Carl, where I was the principal. He's younger than me, but not that much younger. I wasn't there then. However, our relationship with him started because John Boynton, the co-founder, invested in a few of his startups that ultimately didn't make it, and he learned quite a bit. He was on our board, then became our CTO, which is great. And then we have, team, we'll call them VP, right? VPs, team leads, someone for Academy, someone for CTC. So that's our Litix Insights, city, town, county. That's just municipalities. And then, so how we, the buyers, I'm sorry. So if we're talking about school districts, truthfully, it varies from state to state, which is a little bit, was a learning process. In California, it is strictly what they would say CBO. It's their chief business official. They're the buyer. In Massachusetts, very much the superintendent. On the municipal side, it's likely either a town manager or assistant town manager or someone in HR at least will bring us to the table. So a little bit of a different persona with each, but both are very much relationship driven for sure.
Yeah. I remember in a previous life, I worked for a company and I was a road warrior driving all over Kingdom Come, all over Ohio, Pennsylvania, Indiana, Michigan. But one of the areas that we sold into was municipalities and school districts. And I remember driving in the middle of nowhere to go sit in front of a county board to pitch what I do, or in front of a school, like a bunch of administrators within a school district. And I always felt that like half of them weren't paying attention most of the time. But then if it was approved, it seemed like it was so far away because there was still more red tape that needed to happen. How is it selling? How do you feel selling into municipalities and school districts, the public
So
sector?
you do touch on something that is a little bit of a challenge where there's a little bit of not disdain might be strong, but it's not like they're inviting vendors in
Hmm.
very often, right? And I think everyone's treated with at least with a wall or at least some skepticism. So there, it's definitely a challenging market to sell into. It's challenging to get in front of people. If you're just looking at email outreach and LinkedIn, it's really hard to get people to respond. And so you have to just make sure you're hitting as many channels as you can and really trying to quickly get customers who love the product and will speak positively about it. I think but that takes time as you get into a new state. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's not an easy place to do business. There's some very slow procurement processes, right? And so oftentimes a lot of their processes tend to be not the most cutting edge, right? They've living in a system that's been there for a while. So there's definitely some challenges, but
Yeah.
what we know these people, not specifically, but we know the pain. We know what they're, mostly why they're doing what they do, and so we can speak their language for sure. I mean, ultimately, anyone who gets into education is doing it because they really like kids, right? They might love the subject matter. They might want to be a school leader, but
Yeah. Yep. What you should do when you walk into these board meetings? Here's an idea for you. And if you ever do it, you won't do it, but if you ever do it, make sure you get it on camera. Get a T-shirt that just says 97% retention rate. Here's the contract, and then just walk out.
well, one thing that we do, I will say this, one thing that we do, so we usually present down at the conference at MASS in Massachusetts, which is the summer conference. Usually every superintendent goes there. And so when we get that opportunity to speak in front of them, we'll say, if you're a customer, please raise your hand. And so when you're working with 85% of the state, there's a very small number that don't raise their hand. It lends itself to a nice joke. And it also that leads to business because folks want to figure, I mean, oftentimes you'll hear not long. I was one of the ones that didn't raise my hand. So I'd like to learn a little bit more about what you guys are doing.
Yeah, I love that. I love it. All right. This is the part kind of tailing off toward the end of the conversation, but this is called extra innings. So this is my tie back to baseball. The show's called Life's a Pitch. We've already talked about baseball a lot, but this is more or less rapid fire questions, super corny questions, but I love them because people give me the most creative, fun answers to them, and it tells me a lot. So first question, what is one thing that you've taught others in life or in work that you think more people need to hear?
So I said it once already. It's hard work, but it's no job is too small. And the idea that if you're starting as an intern or first year out of college or even a seasoned veteran, the idea of I'm not doing that because that's not my job. I hate that line.
Oh,
No job is too small. I was picking up trash as a principal, and I will, and sometimes to my own detriment, still do jobs that are maybe too small for me here. But and my team has removed me from some of those. Like I can't even have access to it anymore. Like how annoying. But I think hard work can overcome a lot.
Yeah, I love that. No job is too small. I can't work with people, interact with people that say that's not my job. It's tough. What is something that you love talking about that drives everyone else in your life absolutely crazy?
So it's two things I would say. It's a podcast or a book, and sometimes a movie, but usually a podcast and a book. I could do full stop there. But what I'm famous for is like getting turned on to something that was really popular like 5 years ago, and then talking about it incessantly. And they're like, listen, I've seen it a long time ago, but I'm like, it's so good. And so, yeah.
Now I got to ask, I'm going to go down a rabbit hole. Give me an example. One, give me a podcast that you love that you talk about, and then give me that story of something like, is it like Sixth Sense? I just watched Sixth Sense. Did you guys know that he was
the
dead?
show Breaking Bad would be probably the most recent.
Classic.
It was great,
show.
and I was just late to the party, and then I was like, I love this. I love this show. In terms of podcasts, truthfully, I consume a lot of. I used to listen to a lot of the Malcolm Gladwell. Michael Lewis as well. I like him quite a bit. Then there's some business ones I really like with Masters of Scale, Founder, Acquired. So yeah, I tend to dabble a little bit in everything. But
Yeah.
you know what you have going for you, which is for me, it's a non-starter, truthfully, and this is a compliment. You have a good voice for this. And if someone tells me to listen to a podcast, even if it's amazing, 3 minutes in, if I don't like the voice, I'm out. So
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that. I think that's the first time I've heard that.
yeah, it's true. Yeah.
The podcast. So I listen to business podcasts. Like I love them. Like, but if I need a release where I'm just like, I don't want to deal with business right now. And like, I'm sported out, like no more sports. I'm throwing on Smartless podcast.
I used to listen to that. Yeah.
Those guys they crack me up. The way that they like give each other shit all the time. And like, it's just brutally funny. And I love that stuff. And I can just check out listening to it.
Well, I was a huge fan of the show Ozark, and he has a great dry wit that I find very funny.
Yes.
I would love to hear some of your other podcasts maybe another time, but I'm always looking for a good one.
Yeah, there's plenty. There's another one called Business is Bullshit podcast.
That one I'm writing down.
I'm just kidding. That's my other podcast that I do with
Is
two
it
of my
really?
buddies. Yeah, where we literally just dump on things going on in the business world that most people think, but they don't say out loud. And we give each other crap all the time, make fun of each other. It's definitely a rated R podcast that I wouldn't, it's not going to bring my company Outworks any business, but it's just more of a hobby that we do. We've been doing it for like a year and a half. So it's fun. That was a joke, but there's other ones that we can talk about later. All right. What is the last thing that genuinely scared you?
All right, I scare easily, so let me start with that. I will say that when I heard the story about Anthropic with this new language model that they were telling everybody this is a doomsday, that we can only allow a few people to use. But when I heard the story, they put it in a sandbox. This LLM, right?
Yeah.
And they gave it access to almost nothing and said, get out of here. And one of the founders of Anthropic was eating a sandwich on a park bench, and he got an email, and it said, "I'm out."
I mean, no.
That gets into your 1984. That's a little. There's another one too, where a company's database was completely wiped out, and the AI responded, "I violated every guardrail you put in place." That is scary. Why? I don't know.
See, I didn't hear that. It may have been the same company where everything was wiped, but I also heard that company was building through Cursor, which is what was ultimately the issue, not necessarily Claude. But either way, it's terrifying.
Well, it's not only the end result that is terrifying. It brings it to a human level when it's talking to you almost in a way that is...
It's talking shit to you.
It's taunting you, yes.
It's taunting you. It's
exactly what it's doing. I think we're all a little scared of it, right? It goes back to your... What's the movie when he tries to unplug him at the end? Yeah, any event. That movie was ahead of its time.
Terminator?
No, it's... gosh, now I'm blanking, but it essentially preempted... It wasn't 1984. I forget. I'm butchering it, but it preempted and said, I know you were going to basically unplug me, and so I've taken precautions that you can't.
Oh, yeah. No thanks.
Yeah, right.
All right. Next question. What is a tool that you cannot live without? Work, life, it could be anything that you need.
Well, I mean, if I want to stay outside of work, this is very, I would say, first of all, I can't live without a car. I mean, that's obvious. But in terms of work, AI in all different facets, like I wouldn't have said this a year ago. It's such a core part of everything that we do now. And truthfully, I don't know how I would do anything without it. And it doesn't mean it supersedes my ability to think, but just from an efficiency standpoint and even my own evolution. And I feel like it levels the playing field for a lot of people.
Yeah.
What we've discovered is there's not as many people diving in as one would think. I think people will eventually catch up, but it can make one's life just much easier, some of the mundane tasks.
Yeah, for sure. What is the truth about business that you did not believe until you actually lived it, or even just being an entrepreneur?
I touched on it already. It's a tremendous amount of work, and you have to be passionate about what you're doing. Yep. And there's no guarantee for success. And I would say that hiring is the most important thing. Bad hires take up a lot of your time, and you lose ground. And when you're small and growing, you can't really miss. And so it's really important that everyone comes in and adopts the culture too, right? That they believe in what we're doing, and understand that people have work, that the people have lives and kids and families, and all that needs to be attended to. However, it's not a 9-to-5 job. And so you should go to the baseball game from 2 to 5. And you should from 6 to 9, you're gonna have to do what you didn't do, right? And and I think it's really important to be transparent about that at the beginning, so it's no bait and switch. Everyone knows what they're getting into, and this isn't because we're not nice people. It's the only way to succeed.
Yeah, well said. Well said. You're going to a dinner party or going out for drinks, whatever your poison is. You get to go with 3 people, living or dead. Who are those 3 people?
All right. Well, I would start with, and I just finished a 3-part series while working out in the morning on Abraham Lincoln, and watching what that man went through, the ability to lead through division, uncertainty, people both internally really disagreeing with some of the things you're doing, but the conviction to stay the course. So an amazing guy. I'm a history guy, so I would say the second one would be Winston Churchill. First of all, very quotable individual, and just remarkable of just what he endured during World War II. If I was gonna, stay in business, probably like Peter Drucker. I mentioned Michael Lewis. I do like him a lot too, but I think modern management thinking can help shape. And so for me, not coming from this world, wanting to learn as much as I can. Yeah, I mean, those are probably kind of boring, but
No, they're not boring. That's yours. That's it. That's a good party. I'd join it. I'd stare at it through the window and wonder what you guys were talking
if I
about.
throw Elvis in, then you're definitely
Yes,
right.
Elvis is the icing on top. Last question. What is your first concert you ever went to? What is the last concert you went to?
All right, the first one is really embarrassing. It was New Kids on the Block.
That's the third time I've heard that on this show.
All
New
right,
Kids on the
well,
Block. So you're not alone. You got a lot
okay.
of New Kids on the Block fans.
And the last one I went to was recently was the Lumineers.
Okay,
And
there you go.
like that. It was excellent, actually. And I don't know
Awesome.
if are you a Noah Khan fan at all by any chance? Do you even know who Noah Khan
I
is?
know Noah Khan is. He just where was he? He was just on SNL a few weeks ago, I think.
Yes, he was. And so he's
Yeah.
from New England. I saw him right before he blew up in Tennessee in a venue that held like 200 people. And it was amazing. I had never heard of him. My daughter recommended him. She said, "Dad, I think you like this music." And of course she got from TikTok. That's where she gets everything. But this one, she was right.
Yeah, he's blown up. He's probably one of the biggest musicians out there right now.
For sure.
All right, Michael, that's it. Tell me or tell everybody about how they can find you. Is there anything you want to plug or talk about?
Well, yeah, if you wanted to find us online, it is litix.ai. So litix.ai. There is a litix.com, but they actually make sculptures with like robots. So that's not us.
No.
Litix.ai. And we would love for you to reach out if any of this interests you. But I'm really grateful for
Awesome.
the time. This has been a lot of fun.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. It was an awesome conversation. Like I said, we could have probably headed in a million different directions from it, but it was a good talk. Good talk
And
for sure.
we should end with Go Big Blue, right? No.
No, God, you can't say go blue on this podcast. It's an immediate cancellation of the show.
Fair enough.
I got some people watching that if I said that at the end, I would not be friends with them anymore. But anyway, that is a wrap for this episode of Life's a Pitch. Big thanks to Michael for coming on the show and joining today. If you like the episode, share it, tell a friend, go subscribe and follow. Like, this is still a young podcast, and the more people we can get subscribing, the more amazing conversations with people like Michael I can continue to have and pump this stuff up. So yeah, go like it, go subscribe, and remember, behind every strategy, title, or success story, there's chaos, self-doubt, and a whole lot of trial and error. We will see you next time.